Super Rugby round 6. There are 5 games on Saturday. This is a week where we've got a Sunday game as well, but that's for another video. It's a bit of a mix. New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, and 2 in South Africa, so we're all around the place for this 6 week of rugby, and yeah, hopefully we get a few good games. The first one is Hurricanes hosting the Stormers. Both teams have got the 3 wins, both teams the 1 loss. The Hurricanes have played the extra game, getting a draw last week against the Chiefs. The Stormers, I suppose, didn't really set the world alight their first few games, but they still managed to get a positive record, and they do seem to be coming good. So we'll see if they can improve on their travels from last year, because last year was pretty bad. They got no results on their tour of Australia and New Zealand and looked pretty disappointing. I think there was one game, was it against the Crusaders, where they had like a good half, but for the most part it was pretty poor. A trip to Wellington is not easy though, and I suppose there might be a chance in terms of some of the selections, because the Hurricanes, realizing they're having to rest some of their All Blacks, the ones who have played kind of multiple games in a row, they're due for a break. So the likes of Laumape, Coles, Perinara, these guys are not playing. Asafa Amua is also out with concussion. So it's a bit of a shifted round Hurricane squad. So you got Riccatelli starting at hooker with Coles and Amua out. But he's a seasoned veteran by this point. They don't lack for depth at number 2. Richard Judd is starting at number 9. So he's inside Beauden Barrett. We'll see how he goes. I think the most interesting selection for them though is the fact that Jordie Barrett, who's been their fullback, who's been their right winger, is at 12, which is apparently his preferred position. It's where he wants to play. They've deployed him at 13 before, and he wasn't perhaps as successful as we might have liked, but he's at 12, which, like I said, his favored position. I mean, I heard talk that part of the reason he only signed a 1-year extension with the Canes was because he wanted to kind of confirmed that he was going to get more time at 12, so we'll see how he goes. It's going to be a decent test for him, but I mean, overall, it's still pretty talented looking Cane squad. You still got Savia, Fafita, Princep in the back row, Beauden Barrett still playing, Ben Lamb, Proctor, Husson, Tia, who's come along nicely at fullback. So yeah, but I mean, the Stormers are definitely no slouches. There's still a lot of Springboks in that team, and yeah, they perhaps they're going to have a season that they are due. You got Kitsoff and Mbonambi and Malherbo in the front row. So Mbonambi has swapped places with Intubeni, so Intubeni's on the bench. That's perhaps an area they can look to put some pressure on the Canes, because that is a Springbok front row. They've got Etzebeth there. Chris Van Sale is in the second row. He's a change from last week. Khaleesi, Peter Sefutoi, Augustus. I think the other change is Rohan Nell in at 13. So he's got Damien Delende inside him. So they might be trying to target Jordie Barrett if they think he's a weak spot. But he's played plenty of rugby at 12, just not so much at Super Rugby level. So Dylan Leeds at fullback. They've still got Jean-Luc Duplessis at 10. So Damien Villensa with his hot steps is going to come on from the bench. So yeah, that has the looks of a pretty entertaining one. The bookies are saying this one is going to be pretty one-sided. They've got the Canes by 13, which, I mean, given the records of the two teams and the fact that the Canes couldn't beat a winless Chiefs team, perhaps does the Canes a bit of credit. But then again, like I said earlier, that the Stormers were that bad last year away. Maybe part of that is a factor as well. So we'll see how they go. I'm hoping it's a cracking game. Next one, Tars hosting the Crusaders. Crusaders 4 wins and a cancelled game, which ended up being a draw. Tars 2 wins and 2 losses have been far from at their best. If anything, they seem a touch below where they were last year, so it doesn't get easier with the Crusaders visiting from New Zealand. So there has been a couple of changes for the Tars. Cam Clark is in on the wing. Nick Phipps gets the start ahead of Jake Gordon, so Jake Gordon's relegated to the bench. I guess that's slightly Daryl Gibson swinging the axe over those Tars guys. Curtis Rona is out of the 23 entirely. Carmichael Hunt's relegated to the bench, but it's good for them. They got Michael Wells back, one of my favourite Aussie players. He's kind of a workman-like player, but he gets through a whole bunch of tackles, so hopefully he comes on and is able to stem that Crusaders tide. I guess we will see. Hooper's still captain, still got Hannigan, Dempsey, Simmons, Holloway, Kepu, Fitzpatrick, Johnson, Holmes, so it's a pretty familiar looking Tars team. You feel like they're going to have to be on form. That being said, the Crusaders have also made a few shifts. Again, All Blacks pressure means they have to. So there's no Scott Barrett, and perhaps key for the Waratahs' chances is Richie Mo'unga is also not in the match day 23. They might have gone with Mitch Hunt to start, but he's on the bench. So they've got Brett Cameron gets a start in the number 10 jersey. So a wee bit of pressure on him. Big boots to fill with Mo'unga out for this game. But if you know the Crusaders, like they lose Dan Carter and they just get Richie Mo'unga. So whoever they pick seems to turn to gold. With Ron Nagara coaching there as well, don't be surprised if the Crusaders just don't kind of miss a beat with those changes. So you've got Makaleo, Alatoa, Romano, all these guys on the bench, Mitch Hunt, Will Jordan. So the fact that you can bench these guys shows the depth of the squad. Still got Taylor, Samwai Log, Taufua, Todd, Fetu Douglas, Bryn Hall, Enor, Goodhue, Crotty, Bridge. Man, it's a lot of All Blacks in that team. So it is going to be a tough one for the Waratahs. The Crusaders are the bookies' favourites by 10. But if you remember back to last year, the Waratahs are the ones who pushed the Crusaders hardest down in Christchurch. The Waratahs could have won that game. They perhaps should have had the Crusaders, I think Moody was it, with a yellow card for kind of a, was it an elbow or was it a throat strike? I forget, on Beale, which led to a try. So maybe Daryl Gibson, former Crusader, has got some magic formula for unlocking the Crusaders, or maybe last year was a bit of a fluke. I guess we find out. I mean, nothing against the Crusaders, but I like an interesting competition. So if the Crusaders were to get a loss, because there's 0 in the losses column, it might spice the competition up just a little bit. But hey, that's just me. I cannot see it happening. I will be picking the Crusaders in my Super Brew without a doubt. Next game, and I've got the Sunwolves gear on for a reason. They are playing the Lions. Sunwolves are being cut from Super Rugby as of, 2021 will be the season where we get no Sunwolves, so they'll be in it next year. The fact that they have been confirmed to being cut would lead me to believe they're not going to spend a whole bunch of money on the team next year. But if you're a fan, your chances to see the Sunwolves playing are limited, so perhaps get out there. They are playing in Singapore this week, so we perhaps won't see a mad crowd. Singapore's attendances are generally pretty poor for the Sunwolves, so hopefully a few fans get out. I know there's a few guys on the channel watching from Singapore who tend to go to the games when they're on, so that's cool. Hopefully you guys get out again for this one. Sunwolves against Lions. The Sunwolves 1 win and 4 losses, but decent results despite the losses. The Lions, we still can't really predict how they're going to go. 3 wins, 2 losses. They've been great. They've been poor. You'd think against the Sunwolves they're going to do a job, but I guess we will see. For the Sunwolves, they've made a few changes, and Tony Brown's back this week because he's been, I think, partly with the Japanese national team set up, so he's kind of left the running of the Sunwolves to some of his deputies, but he's back in charge of the team this week. And they've got some Japanese internationals back too. They got Tadakawa in the midfield. What was that? Something fell down. They've got Jiwon Ku, the Japanese international with the Korean name. Mikami's there. Grant Hadding is back, and he's in the second row, so I'm glad to see him there. He has some proper tall timber. But yeah, a lot of familiar names as well. Booth and Parker have been good for the Sunwolves this year, especially Booth, actually. Dan Pryor is captaining from the back row. Yamanaka's still there at fullback. Brendan Heaver's there. He's been in decent form as well, so don't write the Sunwolves team off. The fact that they're getting cut this week may be reason for them to go out and try and prove a point, especially because there's talks that it was the South African part of Sanzar that was kind of pushing for the Japanese exit. So the fact that they're playing a South African team may be timely in terms of that rivalry. The Lions have made a host of changes. Levis is there, Vermaak's there, Groom's there. In the backs, you got Mahuza and Mapu starting. So there have been some changes. I guess they've got to rotate their squad as well, so perhaps they look at the Sunwolves as a chance to do that. But that being said, you've still got Malcolm Marx there, you've still got Skuman, who's been in excellent form, Marvin Ori, Similani, and Tyrone Green, who you guys have been telling me is definitely one to watch. So, yeah, Elton Yankees, Courtney Skorsan, who's had a good return as well. So, yeah, the Lions are favoured for this one, but only by 7. So they're not predicting a hiding. The last time the Sunwolves were in Singapore to a Sharks team was a South African team was the Sharks in round 1, and they did get a bit of a thrashing. So if you're a Sunwolves fan, you'll be wanting to prove a point. Lions fans will just want to keep that winning run going, because that South African conference is super competitive with 3 wins, 2 wins, 3 wins, and the Jaguares have had a couple of wins as well. So yeah, it is pretty tight, and you can't afford to be dropping games. The next one, the Bulls hosting the Chiefs. Boy, could the Chiefs use a win. They are the only team with a big fat 0 in the wins column. 1 draw and 4 losses is where the Chiefs are at. It has been about as bad a start to the season as you can get. For the Bulls, apart from that one blip where they lost over in Argentina, it's actually been pretty good. The Bulls are looking like they're the real deal. So I guess we will see. The Bulls are coming off a bye, so they should be well rested. The Chiefs may be a bit jet lagged after the trip over from New Zealand at altitude. Loftus could be a pretty big ask for them. The Bulls have kept things largely the same, but they've got Rousseau at fullback. Burger Odendaal is back in the midfield, so it's good to have him back. Ron Steenkamp is there as well. You still got Vermeulen, you still got Brits, Kaboka, and Yakane, Fansel and Pollard. Pollard's been excellent this season, so it's definitely no easy job that the Chiefs have got ahead of them here. And the Chiefs have actually made a few changes. They got Debrasini at 10. The 10 jersey seems to be one they're still experimenting with a wee bit. So they started with Damian McKenzie there. Things weren't working out that good. They tried his brother last week. Perhaps there was a bit of improvement. Damian seems to benefit from all that extra space he gets at fullback. But yeah, Debrasini's there, the former Rebels player. Interestingly, he had a really good Mitre 10 Cup season with Northland here in New Zealand. So he got a Chiefs contract out of that. So hopefully he can regain some of that form. I think he's only just come back from injury, so we'll see what kind of shape he's in at altitude as well. Alai Malo is another change for them, but it's largely a stable team. Still got Weber, Ardron, Bashir, Jacobson, Mitch Brown, Brody Retallick, Tarbow, Harris, and Ross. So it's a pretty strong looking forward pack. Damian McKenzie at fullback, as I said. Sean Wainui. Anton Leonard-Brown's been in good form. Tuamua Manu, one of my dad's favourite players, because he played for his local club team that he supports here in Auckland. So yeah, they can bring on some All Blacks from the bench as well. So Bulls by 7 is what the bookies have got. I mean, I guess at this point in the season you'd be kind of mad to pick the Chiefs. The fact that they are away, the fact that they've just travelled, the fact that they're at altitude, that they've not got any wins. The Bulls have been in good form. But I suppose you still wouldn't put it past the Chiefs to come right at kind of any point. So, but yeah, the Bulls have been in such good form, and I don't usually do my predictions, but I'm definitely going the Bulls for that one. Pollard has just been running an absolute masterclass, so yeah, we'll see how they go. And lastly, the Sharks are hosting the Rebels. The Rebels are probably going to be pretty mad. They had a loss last week to the Lions. They had a big lead and they managed to get chased down. The penalty count of that one was 20-1, and I've heard two sides to that story. Some people saying like it's a lopsided count, but the Rebels were lucky not to have more yellow cards because the ref kept warning them for some not foul play, but at least infringing. And some people who are saying, how is it possible that a team concedes only 1 penalty in a whole game? It's pretty much unheard of. I can kind of see both sides. I didn't see that game in full, so I'm not really in a place to comment. But perhaps the Rebels will have a bit of anger about them to try and take out on another South African team. They're in Durban this time, so it's not at altitude. So if that was a factor last week, there's no excuse there. The Sharks are definitely our ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team this season. They started the season with 2 big wins. Then they had 2 really disappointing losses. They're coming off a bye. Hopefully the coaches have settled things down and are able to get the boys back on the same kind of path, because yeah, we need the Sharks to get back on course. Otherwise they will be left behind in that South African conference. And yeah, I mean, the Rebels have been good this year, but they'll still be looking at as a game that they can definitely get a win. In terms of the squads, the Sharks have got a few changes. Esterhazen's back in the midfield. Still waiting for him to kind of fire this season. He's been playing from the bench a wee bit from memory. It's been kind of more about Lekanyu Am, who's been in good form. Fassi is at fullback, and Kossi and Mpimpi are on the wings. They've been sharp. Schrader and Dupree 9 and 10. Dan Dupree is still at number 8. But yeah, Hyron Andrews is in, Van Heerden's in, so there's a few changes. But yeah, largely a settled Sharks team. For the Rebels, they have had to make a few changes because of kind of like the Wallabies commitments, similar to the All Blacks have got. They've got to rotate some players. So there's no Nasarani. Haylett Petty's injured. There's no Korobidi, no Coleman. But I think key point for the Rebels is no Guinea. Guinea is having to have a rest, so can't stress how important that guy is for the Rebels' chances. He just creates so many tries with what he does, and his relationship with Quade Cooper it's one that can only be built over time, and they've had that time together with the Reds and the Wallabies. So yeah, I mean, that's not to take anything away from Michael Ruru. He's a good player, and when Guinea got injured last season, he still looked pretty good, so nothing to take away from him. But I'm just saying, Guinea is a pretty hard man to replace. Tuipulotu comes into the midfield as well. So he's outside Billy Meeks. Hodges on the wing. Jack Maddox moves to fullback. Quade Cooper's still playing. Cottrell's going to captain from the second row. It's Luke Jones and Matt Phillip. No, it's Ross Haylett Petty and Matt Phillip. Luke Jones in the back row. Gibbon, Rangi, and Talakai front row. So scrum time again could be a bit of a problem, because you look at that front row for the Sharks. You got the Beast, Aka van der Merwe, and Connie Oosthuizen. So Springboks all around, so it could be tough. Bookies have got the Sharks by 9, so it's kind of a fair call at home, I guess. But the Sharks, are they going to be good? Or are they going to be terrible? I actually initially picked the Rebels for this. Why do I keep talking about my predictions? Just to make myself look silly. I initially picked the Rebels, but when I saw Guinea was out, I switched to the Sharks. Will I regret that? I guess we will see. That's almost 20 minutes of video, so I am going to sign off. Crusaders definitely will be motivated for the people of Christchurch and the people of New Zealand after the week they've had and New Zealand's had. So I'm sure they'll be doing moments of silence for that as well and respect, so that'll be good. But yeah, it looks to be a good weekend of rugby. I am off to the Blues game in about 40-50 minutes, so that should be a bit of fun as well. Hopefully they get a win. You guys let me know your thoughts on these games. How do you think they're going to go? Who are you looking forward to seeing? And yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.